Speaker number 4 is code 298, casting the incantation, "Won't you be my neighbor?"
Children's television should not be confusing. Elmo, what creature is he? Dora the Explorer. Where are her parents? Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. No confusion there. Fred Rogers not only holds the title for the only adult male ever to look good in Keds and a cardigan, but he was a game changer. In one episode, he wanted to teach children how long a minute was. So he set a kitchen timer for 1 minute and sat there, watching it tick for 1 full minute. Allow me to demonstrate. Yeah, I can't be quiet for that long. Mr. Rogers broke all the rules. He taught lessons on love, acceptance, and understanding. I worry, though, that we don't live in that same neighborhood. We no longer ask, "Won't you be my neighbor?" But instead, state, "You can't be my neighbor." Hatred is woven deep in the history of American life. And still today, whether it is swastikas spray painted on North Carolina State University's campus just last month, or the murder of 2 Black transgender women right here in Dallas within the last 3 weeks, hatred is real, and it's close. We don't understand how hate operates, and that's a problem. In a New York Times article titled, "What's so bad about hate?" Dr. Andrew Sullivan writes that we seem at times to have no better idea now than we've ever had about what exactly hate is. So let's look at first how we feel about hate. Second, how we respond to it. Then examine the implications. And finally, restore our neighborhood. Mr. Rogers had a special connection to the number 143. So much so that he even tried to regulate his weight to be exactly 143 pounds. The reason? He said it takes 1 letter to say I, 4 letters to say love, and 3 letters to say you. I love you. And today we still belong to a 143 club. However, we've replaced the 4-letter word of love with another 4-letter word, hate. My first concern is how we feel about hate. We simply love to hate. I mean, so much so that we even have a dating app that connects people via shared hate. In 2017, the app, called Hater, released the data they collected on the most hated things by residents of each state. Michigan hates Pride and Prejudice. They do know it's a book, right? Nevada hates feminism. And I mean, out of all the isms, racism, sexism, cannibalism, feminism is the one you hate. Be better, Nevada. And Colorado hates NSYNC. And I mean, it might sound crazy, but it ain't no lie. And to Colorado I say, bye, bye, bye. And it's not that we're using the word more. evidence suggests that we actually feel more hate. I mean, think about it. The last time you got really upset by someone on MSNBC, CNN, or Fox News, were you frustrated by what they said? Or morally disgusted, which according to NYU psychology professor Jay Van Bavel is the definition of hate. It's the feeling that's erupting in us and around us. You know, Mr. Rogers would be saddened to learn that according to the annual FBI hate crime report, 143 is now the number of hate crimes that occur in this country each week. One of the most powerful episodes of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood featured Mr. Rogers being cradled by Coco the gorilla. He wasn't afraid of getting up close to anyone, or really any issue. We, on the other hand, not so good at that. My second concern is how we respond to hate. We do one of two things. We either distance ourselves from it or ignore it entirely. How many times on social media have we created distance by blocking a person or post we disagreed with? How many close friends or family members have we distanced ourselves from because we lie on opposite sides of a certain spectrum? When we disagree with people on immigration, abortion, or gun control, we just stop talking. Sometimes when we identify the hate in others, we keep them at an arm's distance so we don't have to deal with it. But founder of the Equal Justice Initiative and lawyer Brian Stevenson says in his book, Just Mercy, you can't understand most of the important things from a distance. You have got to get close. And while we're pretty good at distancing ourselves from the hate in others, we're even better at ignoring it in ourselves. University of California, Santa Barbara professor George Lipitz explains the way we ignore hate via the iceberg effect. I mean, it's really easy to call out the external hate that is undeniably visible, the tip of the iceberg. But how often do we attend to the bottom of the iceberg and confront the internal biases, prejudices, and even hate that we might harbor? Now, this does not mean that we should stop protesting and confronting hatred, but that it should be accompanied with some pretty powerful introspection as well. Because no matter how much you build up somebody else's neighborhood, it won't do much good until you can first fix your own. And I do not mean to simplify hate. It is complicated and multifaceted, and I know this because I have known hate. My freshman year of high school, one of my classmates called me Osama bin Laden. I hated him for what he said to me. And in that moment, all I wanted was for him to be gone. I soon after realized that my feelings towards him were not rooted in sheer anger, but in pain. Psychologist Bernard Golden writes in his book, Overcoming Destructive Anger, hatred is a reaction to and distraction from some form of inner pain. Each moment of hate is a temporary reprieve from inner suffering. It was much easier to hate on him because, as author James Baldwin tragically notes, the reason why we cling to our hate so stubbornly is because once it's gone, we'll be forced to deal with our pain. Even in its extremes, hatred is the story of pain. For every assault rifle turned on a nightclub, for every bomb planted in a place of worship, for every hateful noose and burning cross, you have somebody that has been fundamentally broken and radically afraid. Whether it was socialized into them from birth or a response to trauma and despair, they are filled with this all-encompassing terror and grief that is protected by a hard coat of hate. And I say this not to justify those that have done unspeakable things to others, but so that even so, we never stop seeing them as anything but human. You see, America doesn't just have a problem with hate. It's got a problem with hurt. Part of the magic of Mr. Rogers was his use of song. In one song he sang, "What do you do with the mad you feel when the whole wide world seems oh so wrong? It's nice to be able to stop and instead think this song." In his spirit, I'd like to offer my own song, a little R&B. Well, 3 R's, actually, to guide us to a new way to be. First, reflect. Rooting out the subtle and insidious ways that hatred has shaped our lives takes time and careful introspection. What do we feel? And why exactly do we feel it? Second, revisit the way we address hate. According to the Southern Poverty Law Center in August of 2017, the way to approach hate is through dialogue. Listen without judgment and ask non-accusatory questions like, "I don't fully understand your viewpoint. Can you explain to me what it means to you?" Third, take responsibility. Pointing fingers, being a bystander, and remaining silent are some of the ways that we all contribute to hate. And there's a fourth R, Rogers. To live audiences, Mr. Rogers would ask people to sit in silence for 1 minute to think about that special somebody that's helped them along the way. We're gonna try a moment of silence. And for 10 seconds, I want you to think about a person, place, community in which you feel accepted and loved. I'll time you. Go ahead. Mr. Rogers often called that moment of silence a gift, a chance for peace to triumph over war, justice over greed, and love over hate. Now, wouldn't that be a beautiful day in the neighborhood?